Hey guys, so one of the reasons I love gardening and homesteading type things is that there's slow things to do and fast things to do, and depending on kind of what you're feeling like, you can pick and choose. So I'm having a very slow day today. I'm going You want the circle side up because that's where it's gonna open. Hey guys, so I'm trying out a new light today. I am a little bit worried about whether or not it's going to turn out. So if everything looks a little different, it's because I have a new light. So I wanted to show you all my seeds that have now become plants. And this actually came as one set, and I'm using the clear tray that's supposed to go over the top as a tray because as things grow, they expand, and now they've taken over Miami. So these are the tomatoes that started out. I just have one light that's a regular shop light. It has two bulbs in it. They're LED. And was it the 4,000 or the 3,000 that we got, babe? Do you remember?
No idea.
I don't remember. I'd have to go look. But they're not glass. They don't have mercury in them. They're plastic, and so you don't have to worry about them breaking and adding nasty things into landfills, that kind of thing. But what you see here are little peat pots, and they look like little discs that pop up when you add water to them, and I love to use them for herbs because herbs are tiny seeds, and when they come up they're very delicate, and so when you're ready to transplant things, if you have to remove them out of something like this that has the little cup that has soil in it itself, it has a tendency to destroy the herbs. It pulls roots apart. They're so little, they're so delicate, and so I really do like these little discs, that the little jiffy pot thing. So most of these herbs, most of these seeds are from Michigan Gardener, M.I. Gardener, and I do have some of his fertilizer. I have never tried this before, but I did get it from his website. I do have a coupon code in the link in the description below, and I think you save 10% off, and I am affiliated with them, so that means that I make a tiny amount off of it too. But I've been using these seeds for about 3 years now, and I have really enjoyed them. So it says with added micronutrients and beneficial bacteria and fungi, trifecta plus, so it's 5-10-4. So I've never used this, but now that I'm going to pot these tomatoes up, I am going to use them. So if you guys have ever heard about winter planting, winter sowing, what you're doing is you're taking your plant, or not your plant, you're taking your seeds, you're putting them in soil, and you're putting them in a container that's going to work as a tiny greenhouse. And it's going to protect the seeds from being eaten by birds and from frost, and they won't actually germinate, they won't actually sprout until the weather's correct. And so I think it's an interesting thing. I don't necessarily think it grows you a lot of food, but it gives you something to do in the winter that's kind of exciting to look forward to. So I've saved a milk jug. And because these are tomatoes, I'm going to cut it about at the middle because I want to plant them deeper than they are currently. Okay. And I'm going to leave that a little bit attached. And one thing you're going to want to be careful of, I'm not going to put the holes in the bottom of it right yet because I don't want it to leak on me. But when you do this, you do want to make sure there's some holes in the bottom so you have some drainage. This is my horrible, terrible, nasty potting mix that I really don't like because it dries out so quickly. And it's a Miracle-Gro one that does have plant food in it. And I have had to baby my plants so much using this. The one that I love the most is called Black Gold, and it is amazing. The seeds from My Gardener are 99 cents a piece. Other seed companies that I really like that I've used for years are Territorial Gardens, or Territorial Seeds, must be Territorial Seeds. And that's where I first heard about the Black Gold potting soil. And I did just order some plastic and some Rime, which is a frost cloth from them. So I do still order things from other companies, but I have been really happy with the germination rate of the My Gardener to the point that for most of my seeds, I purchase them through them. And my average seed order is about $16. So there we go. We have it inside. And I did do multiple seeds in here. I want to look at this because this one doesn't look as happy as I want it to look. I think I got some dirt on the leaves when I transplanted it. And again, it doesn't like this soil. So there we go. He looks pretty happy, and I'm going to plant him a little bit deeper than he was before. And I actually transplanted these guys. When did I transplant them? Like last week? And they're already once again too big. So I am going to, and you guys will just have to forgive me that I'm not exactly sure what to do with the camera at this point. I don't know if I can bring it in and still use the light, so I'm just doing my best. You always want to be careful not to get potting soil on the leaves of your plants because they leave, it then cannot get light. And even if you rinse it off, a lot of times it'll leave a residue on top of the leaves that again still blocks sunlight. So in the early days of my gardening, I did that a lot where I was really kind of careless about the way that I potted them up. And it doesn't seem to be as big a deal if they're outside getting genuine sunlight, but it really matters when they're inside. So with tomatoes, you can cover them up onto the stalk. They will grow roots out from the sides of their stems. So this guy is ready to go. And so I'm gonna let him rest for a bit. When you transplant something, it shocks them. And so for a few days, like 72 hours afterwards, it's good to give them shade. Don't expose them to light. And if you do expose them to harsh sunlight, a lot of times they'll wilt and die, or at least they'll have a major setback. And so this is what it looks like. I'm just creating a tiny little mini greenhouse for this guy. And on days that are super nice, I will just take this outside, and you do want to take the lid off because it will roast them. I will take this outside, and he will get better sunlight outside than he would in here. But this will give a little bit of a light filter for the next couple days while he gets used to the fact that he was just transplanted. Now, I did want to show you guys what all I had planted. Some of my favorites. So this one is Gobo Burdock, and they will self-seed and throw down lots of seeds, and I have to put a cage around them because my ducks love them so much. They will turn into a pernicious weed if you don't have livestock. But if you have livestock, as the sprouts come up, they'll come up and love them. And it's a great way to feed your ducks is with gobo burdock plants. And you can also eat the root. They have a big, really big root that you can dig up and cook. And I believe it's for liver support. And then in here I have nettles and borage. And borage I use for a bee plant. The nettles I use as like chop and drop. You can eat the young spring greens. You want to steam them because they will bite you. They are a stinging nettle. But I use them in compost tea. I use them in all sorts of things. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is, see that little green there? I just absolutely love to use these little Jiffy Pot things. The onions have done well. I have cut them back 4 times now, and then I planted more in spots where I didn't realize that I hadn't planted anything. I'm not very good about labeling things. I just kind of assume I'll recognize them once they start to grow. I do that every single time. I have the best intentions to use labels, and then in the end I always just am like, oh, I'll recognize them when they come up. Always heavily seed your onions. They do best when there's lots of them in the seedling stage because they support each other on the side. Without a lot coming up at once, they tend to kind of lay down and be floppy, especially if they're underneath an artificial light instead of outside. So when I seed it, I put in like 50 in each little pot, and then you can, it doesn't hurt them as they get bigger and you actually separate them out and they have little bulbs at the bottom. It doesn't hurt them then to pull them apart and plant them because the roots are strong, the neck is now strong, but you do need to cut them back and it'll make them sturdier. All of this in here is basil. I love to put basil in to keep pests away. And I grow the Tulsi Kapoor, I think it's called temperate basil. I grow that because I like to put it in the packages that I send from my Etsy store. I don't know if these guys smell yet. Yep. Oh, we have smell. Yay. So I also have cutting celery that is it Garden to Table, Asian Garden to Table. It's a fantastic channel. She's in Florida and she grows so much food in her backyard. It's amazing. I got those seeds from her. So that is Chinese cutting celery. And then I think I also planted some parsley. And then I have sage, I have ground cherries, and I have chives and a little bit of bee balm, which is good for bees. And then over here, I did originally have the tomatoes planted in here, but now I have transplanted them once and I need to transplant them once again. And I really do need to pot whatever I need more lights or more patience. I'm not sure which. I need more lights so that I can grow these bigger ones. But we've had some pretty good weather lately in the 50s. And so if I had them in something like this little, if I had all my tomatoes in these little greenhouses, I could put a table out in the sunlight and let these guys be out in the sunlight during the day. And then just bring them in at night. And then I have some other systems that I built using little 2-gallon buckets, the little frosting buckets you can get from bakeries, and turning them into a self-watering container. I had really good luck with that with peppers and with ground cherries. Not so much with big, huge tomatoes. The tomatoes seemed to get really tired of being in such a tiny amount of dirt. I think if I made a much bigger self-watering container, that the tomatoes would do fine. But I do feel like this much soil is not enough for a really big tomato. And anyway, so I'm going to try this. Let's see what it tells me I need to do. For tomatoes and corn, 1 pound per 15 square feet, or 1/4 cup each plant. And it doesn't say if I'm supposed to mix it in or not. I have used the special blends for using on fruit trees, but I've never, and I'm a little concerned that I'm going to overdo it in such a little container. But I do feel like, the tomatoes aren't necessarily getting leggy, but I do feel like they're asking to be potted up a little bit, and like maybe where this one has the fungi and the other good bugs for planting, I kind of feel like if I use just a very small amount, and so this is what it looks like. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you see it? That's what it looks like. It kind of looks like round dirt. And I have some others that I want to try that's for the mint lighter system that looks very similar to this. And it actually does smell like a little bit like fungus and good things. So I'm going to take not a quarter cup, but maybe a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half. And I want to be careful not to get it onto the leaves of the other plants, but that's what it looks like. And I'm going to sprinkle it in here and mix it in just a little bit. And I will be top watering at this point, so it should get down to the roots shortly. I'm going to keep it away from the stem itself so that it doesn't burn it, and make sure that there's soil there. So again, I'm going to cover this guy back up. So if you do want to get seeds from My Gardener, you need to get them soon. By the time March gets here, they're all gone. I made that mistake several times. And so this time I bought everything in the end of December, beginning of January. And I still have quite a few of them left. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of a panning shot to show you everything a little better than what I can with the camera there. Okay, so sage, parsley, Chinese cutting celery, chives. All of this is basil. I don't have a problem, folks. I just love basil. And then onions. These are the older onions. You can see that I've already cut back. You can kind of see the blunt tips there. And then this is my milk crate, milk holder. Get down in there. And then I have gobo burdock, borage, and nettles. And then there are some onions I transplanted over there. The ones laying on the ground are where I clipped them. And where they're not as dense, you can see they're not doing as well. They're trying to lean over. They don't have as much support. And then these are my tomatoes that I need to repot up. Huh? Gonna give him a little bit of water. And yes, I have more than one plant in here. And pretty soon I will probably go and divide them out, because you really don't want more than one in each pot. Then I'm gonna go ahead and cover him up. So you can see how much I need to pot these up. The tomatoes are actually touching the light. Where it's not an actual grow light, it won't burn them. The grow lights that I've used for, what were they called? They were a special kind of flower. I totally don't remember. But it would burn things. You really didn't want the plants within a couple inches of them, because it would literally burn the leaves. With this one, it won't hurt a thing. But I do need to get them out. And this is real estate that I could be using for something else. All the tomatoes could be over there on days that were too cold for them to be out, but it's Oklahoma. The weather is in the high 50s, and so if I take them out to the table and let them get a little bit of sunshine every day, then they'll be really super strong by the time I'm ready to have a little greenhouse for them with a hotbed going. And so if you want to know where I'm getting my medicinal seeds, that is strictlymedicinalseeds.com. It used to be Horizon Herbs. And so super fun to see all these. And I do think that it's a game changer for wintertime blues to have something like this. Or just the doldrums. Even if you don't get the blues, if you're just kind of stuck in a rut, it's so fun just to start your garden. So hopefully this has been helpful. And if you have any questions, make sure to let me know, and we'll talk to you later. Why did you punch your sister?
I can't remember.
I think you probably can.
No, I can't. I don't even know.